Hi, it's Mike Stevenson. Today we're going to look at scenario number 4 in the little nugget series I've got on using serverless 360 business activity monitoring with Azure integration services. So today, sorry, I've just jumped ahead too far there. So today we're going to look at continuation scenarios. So if you imagine here we've got a logic app 1 and a second logic app, that one at the bottom should be called logic app 2, and we're going to trigger the first logic app on the top here. It's going to do some work. It's then going to make a call to a second logic app that's going to continue and do some more work. Now, when we come to do a BAM process, it's likely that in this scenario we want to have one kind of visualization of the end-to-end process that doesn't really care about the fact that under the hood there may be 2 or 3 logic apps working together to implement the process. So what we're able to do here is we can use the BAM checkpoint shapes, and we can send business telemetry to the serverless 360 BAM module, and we can sort of pass the continuation of a business process from one logic app to the next one to make those events correlate together when they're sent to BAM. So if we imagine, we have a look how this might happen, is we've got a process here where we step through, we've got stage 1, stage 2. When we implement this, we might start the transaction, do some work, we then do a checkpoint, do some more work, then we call the second logic app. Now, when we do a call to a child logic app, we're able to pass some information through, such as in this case we're going to pass through the transaction instance ID created by the start transaction shape. And what will happen is as we go through the process, we can pass that to the second logic app either as a property in a message body. If perhaps we're flowing JSON between the two, we can just put that as a property, or we can set a header that we can pass to the logic app that can then subsequently use that to call the checkpoint in the second logic app, and that'll make those link together. Now, there are different ways when you come to do these kind of continuation and correlation scenarios. There are a number of different ways you can do it with serverless 360 BAM, but in this case this is the most simple one, where you already know what the transaction instance ID is. You can pass this between your components, and then you can make everything correlate together. So let's have a look at how we can do this. So here I've got in my Azure portal, I've got the first logic app, so we'll have a quick look here, and it's a bit like the diagram on the screen. We're going to start a transaction, specify the process, specify the transaction. We're going to do a checkpoint to indicate stage 1's run, and if you notice, we've got the transaction instance ID that came from the start transaction shape. When I get to the call to the second logic app, I'm just simply passing that as a property here. So on the second logic app, if I show you over here, I've specified a JSON schema for the body, so that means I get the designer properties over here, and I can flow that transaction instance ID through to the second logic app, and that'll just get used when we do the checkpoint here, and that'll basically correlate everything together. So over in serverless 360, if we have a look at continuation across logic apps as my demo, here I've actually only got one business process transaction, but these 2 stages are going to come from different logic apps. Now, in the BAM designer, I know, I'm saying that they're going to execute add a logic app, but this only really matters from the perspective of the icon that'll indicate when you look at the details of a stage. It doesn't really, for example, I could just put other would be fine. It doesn't really mean anything other than that visualization piece to indicate where it was executing to help the user. But in this case, these 2 shapes will come from 2 different logic apps. The reality is they could be from different components. One could be from a function, one could be from a logic app or something like that. There's a couple of different ways that can work out. But if we go and we trigger, so here we've got logic app 1 again, so we'll just go and run that, and while that's running we'll see that a BAM event will start appearing in a second. So there we've got a process that's in flight currently. Now if we see back over in logic app 1, we can see that's ran through. If we go to the runtime for In fact, we can actually step through even. So if we have a look down here, we can see we pass that in, and then we can step into the second logic app, and we can see that the shapes all ran through here, and that was fine. But over in the BAM bit, if we refresh that, we'll see that'll be now completed, and we can see the two stages, and they actually came from different logic apps. Now what you might do, you might choose to put some properties in here to indicate the ID of the logic app it came from, or some scenario like that. But the key thing was that they came from different logic apps, and that allows you to, by flowing that transaction instance ID, you can make events from different components all come together to be part of one process. So in the case where, quite often you'll break your interface solution up into maybe 2 or 3 logic apps that work together, just flowing that ID between them, that brings all your BAM events together to give you one single representation of what happened, even though there's multiple components involved. So that's a quick summary for today's BAM nugget. Hopefully you're enjoying the series so far, and we'll keep the videos coming on this.